All right, I dropped the body down onto it. Check this out. I knew I would be close, but that's cool. It's right there. So, I just threw on the engine cover. I'm still, again, the jury's out. I'm still working on that. Jury's out. I keep saying that. Can't believe she fits so well. We can see that that hood line is going to certainly come around the valve covers. I threw the front and rear fenders on just for looks, just to see what it looks like. That's just jacks holding that up. I mean, it's not, nothing is straight, but I like the coverage. That rear end's going to come down about another 1.5 inches. Of course, the car's sitting on rollers, you know. But she's pretty. Making progress. You can see what I did now. I cut an axis hole. Now I'm going to bring those two through, and again, I'm going to put a cover on there. But at this point now I can start to make my mountings for all of my, I should have had light in here. Make my mountings for my PCM and my power distribution box and my fuse box. So all behind the dash, all behind the line of the dash. So she fills it up. She fills up that bay beautifully. Beautifully. We are making some significant progress. She looks longer than heck though, doesn't it? That chop looks cool on it too. I wish I had it on the ground so I could get it down. You know, sitting on the ground. But we're getting there. I'll have to chop off that fender. I think I got to clock it a little bit more. Chop it off low, very narrow. I might even rotate these. I don't know what I'm going to do yet for the front fenders. They got to come up a little bit though because they're sitting on top of the tire. But I want that apron to be very narrow. If I can help it, that apron will be, the bottom of the running board will be level with the frame. The bottom of the running board. So we'll see when we get there. Still got to have that low look. But she is starting to take shape. Thanks, guys. All right, guys. I just took a little bit of time to if you remember this, Power Distribution Center, PDC, Power Distribution Center. I'm learning so many new acronyms. And the PCM power control module and the FB fuse box. No, I don't know what that is. I will know in a few videos. But basically made a mounting. This is facing down, of course, but fully accessible. I mean, that cable's temporarily in the way from underneath. Got, about 1 inch from the gas pedal cable, or the throttle cable. I'm trying to get my terms right. This guy here, I made a mounting bracket out of a 10 gauge with studs, okay? And then I did a slot in the middle of it, and I tacked it on each of the studs to the firewall, and then zipped tacks every ½ inch apart, you know, maybe 10 of them. Slots was like 4 inches long. Well, there you can see. So there's my tacks up against the firewall. Just the paint burn, right? But I'm trying to keep the firewall clean, but now you can see the PCM. All of this, you know, was on the other side for the rod. That'll go away. Holes will go away. Jury, I hate to say, I keep saying jury's out. But I'm probably going to go ahead and run a a heater box into there, because I currently have 4 holes drilled into the thermostat to get water flow during non-cold engine conditions. And, I plugged my port there and my port on the intake manifold for that reason. I was in debate on whether I want to do the AC and heat and all that stuff. So I'm bouncing back and forth on that right now. But at this point, as I'm getting this stuff in and trying to get it in tucked tight, I can see that, clearly I'm going to be able to get a heater box mounted up there. So that's mounted. That's mounted on an L bracket from the column. Nice, and that was the factory mounting method. I used the factory mount locations for that. And this, then, if you remember from many moons ago, this is 14 gauge, 1-inch square tubing, and then the 18 gauge is wrapped around it and welded. So I'm going to self-tap one screw on that 14 gauge hole, and then I'm going to bring a tab out from the firewall. This is just a plastic mount, and that's how it mounted into the Dodge truck, facing this way. So I can close out then each side of the transmission tunnel to get that hidden, and then my dash, which is in this area, I will more than likely pull that down because the dash is so small. So I have room then for HVAC, at some point when I get to figuring that out. Again, plug the holes. But at this point then, I got to take that wiring, PCM is plugged in, and bring that, route that, and I'll probably route it up and then over the PCM out of the way, just so that I can come down and tie the distribution center to the fuse box. Of course, the appropriate PCM signal wires, which is a bunch of them. And this is the original steering column harness that's running up to there. That's the connection that goes both ways. It's teed off and went both ways to here. And of course, it does take some input from the PCM. So I've got everything. I got the clock spring all the way back on the column, and I'm using of course, the original plugins, but I just need to tie it in. And this is a 90. I might have said earlier a 97 Dakota, but this is a 96 Dakota. It's the body style before 97. And it gives me the features I want, with the turn signal and headlight, a high beam and all that up on the column. And of course, because it's Dodge, they have similarities between the line on the controls and things that they use. Although the colors, there are some differences. I will just tie that in. Now, what comes from here to here, I will go through connectors so that I can isolate this from that. I'm debating on whether I'm going to isolate this from that. I'm just thinking it through, because I made a 4x5 hole so that that obviously disconnects, and they can be pulled through, and this can go along with. I can take that out, but I can disconnect the fuse box and run my funky trailer wiring and rigmarole that I had before if I want to run the chassis. But of course, this would have connectors between these two. But whether I do disconnects between those two, I just don't know, because I'm going to build a big closeout panel. I described what I'm going to do to accomplish that with, tubing and rubber inserts. So it's coming along. I am, of course, completely behind the dash. The dash is on this line. It's kind of hard to tell, but if I sight straight down, I am behind the dash, and the dash physically comes out a little ways in front of this anyway. So I'm tucked up in there. And I'm assuming that most of my controls are going to be here because there's not much reach room up in this area. So I'll probably use the, I don't know, but current thinking is I'll probably use the original. Well, here. Sorry about that. It is so easy to put in. So the dash will sit in that kind of an arrangement. I'll probably use that central display for the speedo tack and all that stuff. And then I'll drop down. You can see how far, it's way back behind there, about 4 inches. So then let me get it hanging here. Then I'll tie it in somehow into the transmission tunnel. And I'll probably have my remaining controls on there, whether it be HVAC and, God only knows what, headlights, all that other stuff. But I'm really thinking about a theme that involves switches or push button or something like that. So it's unique and different. But it's coming together again. Now I'm back into the mess of wiring and connectors. But I've got some really good connectors. Weather packs and weather packs on the interior. Well, whatever. I like them because they fairly well guarantee a connection. So got these for the heavier gauge, big barrels type connectors, and then I got a different style for the lighter gauge. So here I can go out to 12 gauge. Yes, 12 gauge. Here I can go up to 16 to 20, and then I'm 16 to 12. So that's the plan. We'll see how it manifests as we go, but some pretty rewarding experience today. So more later. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe. Send it to a friend, send them to a friend, because participation isn't what I thought it would be. But feedback has been freaking phenomenal. Thanks, guys. Been a while since my last post, in time, not necessarily when you see them, but I got everything going, set the engine back down, put a hole in the transmission tunnel. Oh, routed the wiring through it. Boy, I gotta get back there. Routed the wiring through. Okay, you can see the hole. I'll be building a cover for it. Use the power distribution center. Yeah, here's a lot of things hanging here. Built a bracket. This is where it was mounted in the fender. And you can flop it open and get after that. There's the PCM. And next to it on the left there is the fuse box. So I integrated the 01 Dodge Ram 5.2 liter PCM that we used for all the engine work, and brought that down to the to the power distribution center that I used on the chassis. If you recall, I had that all running, the appropriate fuses running off of that. And then now I integrated the fuse box into it, and I started working on all my feeds. Now I'm not going to use a Dodge Dakota headlight switch, but sorry about that. Panel, I'm not going to use any of this bezel, but I will use this switch. I'll just get an appropriate cover for it. The reason is that switch follows the wiring schematic and the chime and all that stuff, headlight on chime and all that stuff that works so nice and integrates so well to this. And then of course on this 87 Dakota, it works perfectly for my application because I needed the column shift. The key, hazard lights, which those work even though I only have 2 bulbs in. blinkers, wipers, integrated all of that, everything along those lines in. There's where I lost the ground. Integrate all those in, and so what I have hanging is, you know, they're and labeled. This here would be the cruise control box. I'm going to use the cruise control. Over here would be vehicle speed sensor, overdrive switch, and the AC input. When I select AC, turns the PCM, of course, runs that. So I got space here for an HVAC solution down the road. I've got all of those tails up there are the various fuses that aren't used for the chassis system or the steering column. So those are yet to be consumed. You know, they're dash fuses, courtesy lights, dimmer lights, so on and so forth. My door pins right here. Whoops, right here. Yeah, driver's door pin and both front door pins for the courtesy light, the timer. You know, leave the interior lights on for whatever it is, 60 seconds before you get out, or whatever, however long it is. So I got all that stuff hanging under here yet, that yet needs to be routed. Oh, I even grabbed the center brake light, and then of course the instrument panel lights. So those are all running back to the fuse box. Those are where they terminate. God, excuse me, I just drank a bottle of pop. Oh, wiper motor and pump. So everything here is sized so that it will tuck up along the top side and under the dash. The only thing down is going to be this. And so once I get the dash in, I have room for, you know, my radio and all that, and I'll have a closeout on each side for the dash. But I gotta determine what I'm gonna do behind the firewall. Sticking in that rocker over there is the blower motor. What is it? And power windows. The heavier wires, the heavier gauge, the bigger fuses. So I've got all of these various under dash elements to wire yet, but the chassis is wired, the engine is wired. The other thing you'll note, like, you see red here, you see red over here, then you see white, electrical tape, and there's green, okay, and then of course black. And those are all the various circuits. So if I'm working with red, I know I'm working on a chassis circuit. If I'm working with yellow, I don't remember the exact labeling. I can chase this. This is the fuse box. I'm on the fuse box with yellow. Black is PCM. That's what I started with. And white is PDC, Power Distribution Center. So that kind of keeps things in order. And when I'm looking at a loom underneath the dash, if I were to have a problem, I can identify where the home is for that, you know, the source is for that. The other thing is on the rocker, where I'm going here, you see two looms. I should have better light. They're just kind of flopped on the floor right now because these will all tuck up. But they go down into this channel underneath and attach to connectors. 6-pin for the front, 6-pin for the rear, to grab the chassis. So none of my wiring, I don't know if you ever remember any of this, but my wiring basically comes out of a grommet on the chassis in the back. In a better view, and in the front. So 6 in front, high beam, low beam, turn 1, turn 2, or right turn, left turn, lamps, park lamps or running lamps, and horn. That's 6. In the back, fuel pump, fuel sending unit, right, left, tail, and reverse. And so all of those connections are completed, and again, as well as all the source distribution to the fuse box and a fair amount of everything to the steering column. So now I'm looking at panel lights, electronic speedometer, and the dimmer panel lights, the dome lights, the 12 volt power in the interior for lighting, the 12 volt power for the interior lighting that I'm going to have on the delay switch, power windows and the poppers, door poppers, those kinds of things. So, more later. Thanks. Hey guys. Well, I've been working and poking around on some of the wiring. I got some of the fundamentals done now. I got tested out the ignition, the courtesy lights, the interior lights, the time delay circuit. Got myself a headlight switch and a wiper motor, and all the trinkets that I need to go along with the make it legal part of it. I wired in the door switches, to test out the time delay and all that stuff. I don't have it plugged in because I'm putting a battery charger on it. Got my pigtail battery cable, and that goes onto the post, which you can see right there. That comes through. Of course, that's what it's for. And that runs all the way to the back to the battery in the back. So now I'm focusing on some of the other things. Ordered a heater. I'm just going with I'm not going to do AC. I can't fit it in here. That space right there is what I got. I'm not going to cover up the PCM, and I'm not going to move it closer. I want to get a console in here and get my guts in, for whatever my gauge set, and it'll come down into a console for my radio and stuff, and that'll sit just above that power distribution center. So right now the chassis is wired. It's been tested. Everything works. Headlight, fuel pump, everything works. I tested everything in the column. I have not tested the cruise yet. I did test the wipers, and all circuits are good. So that's good. I don't have to get it in and out of that 47 times. So I decided to focus on the dash. And one thing I want to point out is that's about 3/4 of an inch, maybe 5/8, about my middle finger. And so that's going to be my opening for my defroster. So I yanked the dash off, and I'm getting ready to cut the defroster holes in it. But before I did do that, see, they're going to just get cut into this relief here at a strategic location. But this dash was 1.25 inches taller. So I cut this out right down the center of these trim pieces. So this is a dress area, this is a dress, and that's a dress. I welded this and I cleaned it up a little bit, but a trim piece that was substantially wider went on to cover up these screw holes. It also had an emblem in here, a large oval. There's more than half of it right there. But after I took that 1.25 inches out, there was nothing there. I mean, I could put a little dot in there, I could put something in there, but not gonna. So what this particular one was this, the windshield moved out. And so there is a seal that went in the channel that had a rubber backing on it so that you could shut the windshield, and that dashboard came up 1.5 inches, effectively stopping. You know, it would be the stop for the seal on the when the windshield was closed. However, I'm not going to do a swing out windshield because of the way that I'm doing this. And the second thing is that 1.5 inches is vital when you only got 8 available. So I needed to lower that dashboard so that I could increase my visibility. Now, so some might think, take the visor off. The roof of the car comes down to the height of the visor. And my windshield wipers are going to tuck, you know, up when they're closed. They're going to come down from the top. And that's how they did in 1930 because the windshield swung out. Okay, so that's what I'm going on. I'm working on things like the defroster. I ordered a heater. I'm not going to do AC for a number of reasons. Number one, I would have to reconfigure my, not that I can't, but I would have to reconfigure my power steering pump to move it out. And I'd have to get a new pulley up here. And I've looked. There is the smallest sanding that I can get in here would work. But I'd have to drive that water pump off the third hole, or the third pulley, along with the power steering pump, so that I could use the 2 other belts on this V-belt arrangement. I could go serpentine, but that's too loud. I've taken so much care and effort to hide all of the wiring. I'm going to hide the heater hoses underneath the engine cover. They'll travel into the firewall in the back, but I want it to look like an engine is bolted in to a chassis, and that's it. So I'm going to modify this engine cover to come out and do a shape, a different shape. I don't like that shape. So how that wound up. So it's too blunt, too abrupt. So, and that'll match the valve covers and that kind of a thing. So at this point, just rambling, but I wanted to give you a quick update. Modified the dashboard, getting for the height, getting ready to cut in the air conditioning or defroster vents, and keep it on going. So thanks for the time. Thanks for watching. And shoot me any questions you have, any comments. Like, subscribe, and share this. Please share it. Come back. Well, hello again. So the project was the dash. I straightened and hammer formed. I might have shown some of this already, but straightened and hammer formed the whole front. There's a crease coming out through here. You can see a hint of it. It's going to need a little bit of filler. Got rid of that. That turned out good. The crease came up into here. It just basically was... But I got her straightened out. You can see shadows of the tack welds where I'm now building the defrosters. And I'm just tacking them on. I don't want to change the shape that I've been able to get out of this thing. So I knew that this tapers down relative to the mounting surface, and that snakes underneath this header above the dash. So I measured the distance between the bottom of this and where the dash goes in, and I had 3/4 of an inch. Okay. I also have 3/4 of an inch between the mounting surface and this header in this dimension. So I have that dimension and this dimension, and I chose to use that pocket because, again, I'm coming from that side, so it's blowing. It's going to blow up this, this way. Most of the pressure is going to be up this way. In that pocket. Not that one, that one. And cognizant of the fact that I had to hit my holes. You can see I welded in. I don't know if I showed that. I welded in Everything came down 1/2 inch, so I made a new L bracket, welded a nut on the back side of it, and just welded it to the top. Okay, so that gets that done. Then I just formed a plenum. And you can see here, I pie cut into the plenum where I'm coming forward and getting out of there. One of the things, you know, like, why didn't you go all the way over? Start modifying, you can modify till the cows come home. I should have the light on in here, but this is the mount for the steering. Comes up and comes just, what, 1/2 inch beyond this surface. So that was in the way. Another reason why I chose this plenum. So I'm kind of coming in and getting out of the way before I go up there, leaving the space. But the sum of that area is slightly less than the area of this plenum cavity. And so then I swept them up, centered them on the dash, swept them up, made them both 7 inches wide, cut them out, and they actually go, see, they're somewhat behind the top of the dash. Now I can relief cut out the dash, but they actually sit 3/16 behind the window. So they set in about right there. And that cutout goes down to about 1/8 to 3/16 above this ridge. So when I put my molding in, that hole will come out and it'll blow around the radius of the dash. I actually tried it with a vacuum cleaner on blow cycle. So it comes up and it actually blows out toward the windshield. So I put that on. I did the vacuum cleaner blow test on here, and I got volume out of both of them, but I got about twice as much out of this one as I did out of that one, which stands to reason, right? It's the path of least resistance. So then I decided today that I'd form up another duct, get it into the stream of air, and go that route. I could just clear, and again, I'm clearing that header piece on the structure, on the frame. And so I just basically formed 2 pi r, right? Or pi times d gives you the circumference. So I just took some 18 gauge sheet metal, rolled it in this guy around my 1.5 inches, you know, to a little more than half, pulled it out and finished forming it on the socket. And then I slowly hammered it down. I left the socket in. In fact, you got a little bit of a socket impression right here, holding that shape. And then I just slowly compressed it and then hammered and formed and straightened out the bottoms of it so that it would transition, get wider, and then transition into that duct. So there you have it. I have the integrated defrosters on the dash. The heater is going to be here early next week, and it comes with 4 ducts. It's just an auxiliary heater. I'm not, big into the driving all winter long in the car, but the whole point is that I got to circulate the water in the Hemi anyway. I'm not going to drill holes in the thermostat anymore. I just need to get that volume and get that even cooling. So I'm going to circulate it through here. And probably it's got 4 ports. 2 of them will go to the defrosters. 2 of them will come over and tie down on the legs. I'm not going to put controls on. At this time, I'm not thinking about putting any controls on to direct it. I could make a door that would blend and do all that stuff, but I think I'm just going to leave it. It's just a box with 4 ports, a fan, cheap, just a cheap setup that allows me to circulate the water, number one, and have the opportunity to defrost the windows. So there's where I'm at. Thanks, guys.